my sense at the present time is that a lot of creativity strategies which have become so popular that they're almost ubiquitous. I mean, it's probably the single most important urban development strategy at the present time. So I think the interesting thing about the creativity strategy is why are people buying it? That's the interesting thing. Why are cities all over the world finding ways that they can repackage their policies under this framework? And my answer to that question is that it's what the sociologist Gregor McLennan has called a vehicular idea. It's a travelling idea, actually designed almost to travel from place to place. And each place that it touches ground, in Detroit or Shanghai or Amsterdam, local interests can find a way of articulating their own goals in the language of the policy. And so it's a rather elastic, feel-good policy that absolutely fits with orthodox development strategies. It's striking if you look at Florida's own analysis. The kinds of places that he celebrates were, if you like, historically or spontaneously creative. Amsterdam, San Francisco, these were creative places for decades, if not centuries in the case of Amsterdam. And in many ways his model is a distillation of some of the key elements of those cities, some of the commonsensical positive features of the San Franciscos, Austin, Texases, and Amsterdams and so on, are redescribed and then presented to other cities as a model to emulate. So in some respects what Florida is doing is repackaging what's already out there and presenting it back to places.
It's here on the corner on the other side of the block. The building is owned by Mrs. Leyendecker. Now, well, owned is a really interesting concept because the woman died 11 years ago. But she died alone because her husband died 20 years ago. Yeah? And this is the only thing that the cadastre knows about the current owners of this place. So operationally, this is going to work as follows. We're going to walk out the door, we're going to go to the right, we're going to go to the next little street to the right, and then to the right again, until we come to this very big for rent boards that is on the place. So the breakers are going to break open the door, and there is also a ladder and an accuboard to remove the for rent boards. It's very important that this for rent board, if we can manage it somehow, is unmounted, yeah, and somehow disappeared. Yeah? For example, the garden or the basement of the place is a wonderful place to disappear it. And it's important to disappear it because when the cops ask us who is the owner, then we're going to say it's Mrs. Leyendecker. The best thing is we're not going to tell the cops that Mrs. Leyendecker is dead. They can try and find that out for themselves. What we don't want them is to call the real estate broker that tries to sell this place, because he might come and interfere with our business here. But before they find Mrs. Leyendeck and then find out that she is dead and so on, it might be weeks passing and then we're fine. Is there any questions and or remarks? No? Then let's go. Bed, table, chair, stuff outside. So the Kraaksbrugger or the squatting assistants are, like we normally translate it, is a collective of experienced squatters, and we help people set up and prepare and execute their squatting actions. It's like a union office. So if you want to plan a strike or labor action, then you go and see the union, and the union does it together with you.
De chef van dienst? Nee, nog niet. Nou, dat scheelt echt. Ja.
But what's interesting is to see the squatters as the postmodern syndrome that we in fact are. Like many people say, okay, I'm exploited by my landlord, I'm exploited by my mortgage bank, but the squatters will get them back. So I think that we fulfill this role, and I think it's important that we are aware of all this. I don't really have the illusion that we can change anything on a large scale with direct action. But I believe that we can motivate and agitate people. It's like a propaganda operation, if you want, so that will, as a side effect, provide housing for the people that perform it.
And what do you think about the issue of violence when squatting? Is that a contemporary issue, or?
It's contemporary. It's not like, because I was raised in the 70s and 80s. It was much worse. So now it's very light violence.
I don't understand why you just don't rent a house or an apartment.
Het zijn exceptionele gevallen hoor.
Like I do.
I think the problem of many squatters and activists is that they believe their own propaganda. Yeah, you have to be very, very realistic and materialistic in order to survive in such a context. If they say you're the nice guys because you're the artists, then you have to take their word, they have to turn it around in the mouth. You have to say, of course we're the art, we're the only real artists, you are the fakes. And give us everything, and if you don't give us anything, we'll riot.
Squatting was in Amsterdam, in Holland, was always the start of new venues, of new cultural hotspots, of new creative buildings. So almost all the venues for pop music, jazz music, for small theaters in Amsterdam who exist now. And Amsterdam is a huge network of cultural places, cultural buildings. Maybe almost all are started in a squatter situation. Without squatting, there won't be any small theater in any neighborhood like this, because they're here. In the 80s, it all vanished. And they are still here because these buildings were squatted and still are now here, legalized. And so the whole cultural infrastructure in Amsterdam is based on squatting.
It's really difficult in both if you're a student or even if you're part-time working, finding spaces like for living, that's the first question. It's really difficult because of the whole gentrification and metamorphosis of the city. It's everything is getting renewed and renovated for really expensive apartments. And then comes the question of the working space. If you're an artist or you need a space to get along with people and develop the ideas for anything else, it's really difficult because big spaces are not being used. They're like big offices being built, and they're standing for renting for ages and ages and ages. So yeah, the kind of the solution that some people find is the anti-squat, but it's absolutely not a solution because then your rights are on such a low level that you can't actually use the building. And this is one of the mismanagement of this space, that there are a couple of sectors that are used by anti-squat, but they're also running down, and the company is not doing anything to help them, and they're not allowed to do anything. So it's yeah, the really complicated situation.
The biggest thing that you notice is house prices. House prices are high. They're up to between 3.5 and 4.5 euros per square meters in this part of Amsterdam. It's expensive. I'd hope we would have more continuation of the gentrification process that at the moment is happening, with more people with incomes coming to live here and upgrading the place. So you've got nice pubs, nice shops, nice parks. It becomes a nicer place to live. I've got big problems with squatting. The whole principle that because the place is not being used, you're entitled to grab it. Just like if you park your car, you go on holiday for a week, and then somebody takes it because you're not using it. I think the principle is very, very wrong. I remember when I was rebuilding my own house. I mean, just to get a building permit takes a year, but within a year they're allowed to squat. I had sleepless nights that would come home from a weekend to my mum, and my house would be occupied by strange people. I think it's a very scary concept. On the other hand, this thing here has been empty for 5 years. I mean, I do understand that at some point, if nobody uses it, somebody will. I do understand that.
I hope that there will be some good things going to happen here. Like what's written there, is there going to be a biological garden? That's something I like for the artists. Me myself, I do children's theatre. That's my job. So if there's place for a little theatre for the children, because I perform for 2 years, so I start with 2. So it's a beautiful place, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. So lots of ideas, yeah.
Nou, ik zou heel graag een disco willen.
Oh, she would love a disco. Disco play, echt? Ja.
Nee, een filmding.
The Labour Party or the Dutch Social Democrats are in favor of squatting as long as it doesn't you know, it's you don't do any damage, or it's, you know, non-violent and all that sort of thing. So we've even in the city of Amsterdam, the Social Democrats also voted against the law which said that squatters had to be evicted early on, and we said no, we don't think it's a good idea. But I think squatting is a way also to keep politicians like myself, to keep them on the ball, to see, okay, well, what's their point, and you have a dialogue. So I think it's good to be for innovation, and to you may not always agree, but it's always, you know, it's power and countervailing power. So I think that's very healthy in a democracy such as Amsterdam.
It's very hard because you're dealing with people who have no knowledge of, at least that's my perception, who have very little knowledge, let me take that, of how creative people work, because you have to have a space to develop your ideas. And when you have no money, the times get very, very hard, because everything now gets, according to the big city examples of New York or whatever, you have to have a lot of money to develop something here. The prices are skyrocketing in Amsterdam, and what used to be like 10 years possible for everybody to have little money but a lot of ideas to develop is almost impossible now. And we have to make the people aware that a city needs a creative spot, because if there's no creativity, if everything gets like office buildings, everything goes to the people who can pay like 250 euros per square meter, then the whole atmosphere will change in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is known throughout the world as a place where everything must be possible. And there is a sort of nice atmosphere in Amsterdam, and that goes down, and that's very hard to struggle with.
I think that especially the context of the squatters ban creates a platform for us, and so I think it's very useful. There's a lot of discussion points that we can get on the big canvas of the public opinion because of the squatting ban being there. And what is interesting is that the squatters always are like on this front of social debate. They're on the front in the debate about human rights. They're in the front of the debates about property, about distribution, because they put themselves on the front, but also because society around understands this role as such. So as far as the movement is concerned, I think it would help that people contextualize themselves a little better. So a lot of people are running around in a squatters movement thinking that they're the Spanish anarchists and they're gonna win some revolution soon. Yeah? So I think this is like a delusion. And there's more delusions like this, and if people could like get rid of this delusion and become 21st century politicians, then we could work more effectively.
I think the way that it's emerged, as in many respects it's disarmed some of its critics. But if you look around the world now at where the most severe criticisms are coming from of creativity, ironically it's often from the arts and cultural communities themselves. I know this is the case here in Amsterdam, in Berlin, in other European cities.
Listen, yeah? If you're an average citizen, you can't live here. Yeah? This is Amsterdam. This is a small city in a bigger urban context. Yeah? If you're an average citizen, you go and live in Rotterdam. Yeah? If you come to Amsterdam, it's like a festival town. To make it here, you have to have something special. If you don't have anything special, you leave.
There's a lot of space in Amsterdam empty, which cannot be commercially exploited for the next 5 or 10 years. So there are a lot of opportunities on this. But there's also always a lean back attitude among the real estate companies, because everybody has a nice glossy folder where it is pointed out that this building can be rented for 200 euros a square meter. So, and everybody wants to keep up this appearance because it is in fact a reflection of the value of a building.
My name is Joost van Gestel. I'm the CEO of Camelot Europe. Camelot is an organization that provides living spaces in temporary vacant properties. We call it live-in guardians, and we place these guardians, these occupiers, in temporary vacant properties. Not just homes, but also schools, offices, churches, monasteries, and even the occasional prison. In the Netherlands, the anti-squatting law, the law that forbids squatting, has two parts. Yes, there is the forbidding of squatting, which we all know ain't gonna happen. Yeah, squatting will still exist. And there's the second bit, and that is encouraging owners to do something with their vacant properties. Yeah? Either by giving them a financial incentive to transform a desperate office building into homes. Yeah? Or to punish them. It could also be a punishment to say, look, you have to do something. We don't know what, we're not the owner, but we'll punish you now because you have to do something. We see that the economical living period, the period that a building can be used for its purpose that is built, like a school or an office, is shrinking. So there will be more and more buildings come to the market which needs to be transformed or needs to be destroyed. If you look at all these homes that have been built in the 1700s, they need to be transformed a little bit. Look at all these homes that have been rushed after World War II. A lot of them with a toilet in the garden, no shower. They're really not of modern standards, so they need to be changed. And the time for that is now, last 10 years, next 10 years. So there will be an enormous flood of properties that are not up to standards, so they will be empty between the current use and a new use. So that is the one thing. And yes, I really believe that in this case the Dutch model of house sitting expanded from homes to non-homes, to commercial properties, will expand over Europe. We see this also in the way that institutional owners look at it, and also cautious owners or cautious companies like insurance companies. We work with insurance companies who say, yes, this is a great way of securing a site. We will give the owner full coverage and equal price as if it was an office, as if it was an occupied school. So there is a very clear stimulation for the owner to work with us. If you look in the last 5 years in the Netherlands, the number of these so-called live-in guardians increased to around 50,000. We have 16 million Dutch people, so 3 out of 1,000 are living in a temporary accommodation. And I really feel that those numbers can be applied to England or to France, or who knows, in a couple of years, to Germany, which means that several 100,000 of people travel between homes, schools, churches, MOD complexes and offices that are temporarily empty, making creative, affordable spaces.
So this is the Dam Square. This is 20 meters from the place where I live, and it's pretty crowded, as you see. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of traffic, a lot of people. Not exactly my kind of space. I prefer living a bit outside of the center, actually. This is the Kalverstraat. This is where all the shops are. This is where all the crowd comes. It's a very popular place for people to go and consume, I guess. But I can take you to my apartment if you want. It's just down the street. This building used to hold a lot of offices. The office I live in now is the former Air India, so they moved out and I moved in, I guess. Everything is pretty organized here because I have to keep it tidy to in case the owner drops by or in case someone who wants to view the building drops by. So I have to. My contract says I have to make the bed every morning, and I have to keep it clean. I have to put my laundry in a laundry basket. I can get kicked out by a very short notice, but I heard from other people who live from the same company that they're quite helpful to find a new place to. So then you have to be a bit ready to restructurize your living situation, which is also why I have a lot of things in moving boxes. It's just a way of organizing it without having to take everything out. I moved a lot while I was here in Amsterdam, but I think not more than I moved when I was living in Copenhagen. The housing situation is more or less equal, I guess. I think I moved here in Amsterdam, I moved like 5-6 times in 2.5 years. And that's too much. In the beginning especially, there's a lot. There's like you live one place 2 months. I started out with living in a hostel or on people's couch. I spent 3 days in a hostel and people came in at 4 o'clock in the morning and vomited in the corner and were loud and stuff, and I had to go to my studies the next day. That was kind of a very difficult beginning, and this is what everyone faces when they come here to Amsterdam at the Rietveld Academy, I know. I lived at the Vetterstraat. I found this place on Marktplaats, which was actually like a complete apartment that some guy wanted to rent out. I posted an ad there, and he just sent me an email that, yeah, he had a place that he would like to rent to me. A whole apartment, there could live 3 to 4 people. And this was amazing to have this drop in my lap. Was like, that was something I've been searching for since I got to this town. But it took me like 1.5 years to get it. And it was just, it was just by luck. And I found that on Marktplaats, which was, that's kind of difficult to get this through that. But at least the alternative to Marktplaats would be like, the real devil in this is like Kamernet, another webpage where you can go and you can search for apartments or you can post an ad as well. But there's like, whenever there's something posted there, like a place to live, it's sent out to maybe, I don't know how many thousands of people, but it's like you got a call within half an hour, or else you're not getting the place. Yeah. And even then, you still have to be lucky. So those were the, these are the conditions if you want to look for something online. The best way I heard to get an apartment here, or to get something to live in here, is just by asking, everyone you meet on the street. But my role here is really that I'm the caretaker of the building, so whenever something happens, I have to react on it. A couple of weeks ago there was a smashed window at the bottom of the building, and we, in that case we have to notify the company, and we try to block it, whatever there is. Hey. Yes, this space has been empty since I got here. It's pretty big. This is enormously big. I guess they don't have anyone moving in because the floor is uncarpeted. It's pretty covered in this kind of dust. Could be perfect for some kind of a studio to work in. There are balconies even. I don't know if there is access to them now. No. And here we have the Kalverstraat. This space is a lot more quiet than where I live. I live on the first floor. And every Friday or Saturday night, even Thursday night as well, I always wake up from people, you know, yelling or singing.
My understanding of the breeding place policy is that its origins were in the municipality's response to the squatters movement, and there was an opportunity there to respond to the demands of the squatters and to normalise some of their relationships with the city and create these spaces which became known as the breeding places, which would enable the squatters to have a semi-permanent or permanent place in the city. That was later rebranded, if you like, as more of a creativity policy. The breeding place policy was in place for quite a long time and really was there as a response to the social movements, I think. And what we've seen in Amsterdam in the past 4 or 5 years really has been a representation of the policy arguments articulated in a language of creative cities and Richard Florida's thesis of the creative class. But my argument about that will be that's a sort of a veneer across the top of policies in Amsterdam.
Richard Florida's story has been introduced also in Amsterdam, and of course Florida stresses the need and the future perspective of a creative city, that it has an economical meaning in an increasing way for Western European cities. So everybody was a bit, like everywhere, inspired by his book and theories. And in Amsterdam, the politicians and opinion leaders and people in the field, everybody said, that's an interesting story, good, but luckily we do already.
I'm Martin Wulf from the creative hotspot Beehive, and we're based at this moment in Amsterdam Nieuw-West. This is a neighborhood of Amsterdam that's, well, it's got some problems, you could say, social, economically wise. We started this project, Beehive, a network of spaces and creative industry, you could say, around 3 years ago in this area. And at this moment it's getting bigger and bigger. What we do is we attract all kinds of entrepreneurs out of the creative industry, out of other parts of Amsterdam, and we attract them to this neighborhood to well, create positive impulses, you could say, for this neighborhood in all kinds of ways.
I'll tell something about the historical context of the Broekplaatsen policy. And it's based, in fact, on the squatting movement which popped up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, where it popped up in the 60s and 70s, and it developed in a very revolutionary way in the 80s and the 90s. And in fact, these squatting groups, they were wiped out of the warehouses at the end of the 90s in Amsterdam. So when Amsterdam decided to develop the Eibinks, the Eioevers, around the central station, this area of former harbor industrial plants, In these warehouses were already settled all kinds of cultural and creative initiatives, and they were wiped out. And they addressed themselves to the city council by saying, well, look here, you can wipe us out. We know we will lose this battle, but be aware, we contribute to this city as well. The imago, and even economically, you can say we have our contribution to the city.
We're here in Amsterdam North, and this is the former shipbuilding yard NDSM. And it's a big complex, and actually after the Second World War it was, I believe, part of the Marshall Plan. In 1946 this was established as a most modern place to build big tankers. And now we see here, like, this is a broedplaats. And there's all kinds of people, artists, the creatives, working and spending time here, thinking together on different things. And this actually was one of the first projects, and also the most expensive one. In 2000, there was an article in the newspaper and an advertisement, like, who knows a good idea for a space like this. So many people sent in their ideas, and there was a little group of people that made this kind of plan, like an open kind of architecture for all kinds of artists, also with a place for skating. So it's a mixture of everything. This is our capital, we claim. We say with 100 artists we built this city, and it's not for sale. So you can buy the building, but you don't buy us.
I think it's in a city where you do not have such a broedplaatsen policy, then the effect will be much harder than in Amsterdam. Because in Amsterdam we have now experience for 10 years to make deals with partners, with parties which do not know each other, which do not meet normally each other. Because for real estate owners, squatters are weird, strange people which they do not want to meet. And for squatters, the real estate owners are the capitalist enemy. But we had worked out some experience in the last 10 years where we brought those parties together, or we negotiated with, at the one hand, the squatters and the other hand, the real estate owners. And we made deals out of that.
I think we have to get over this idea that the creative city exists. I think it is in our own mind that we can be creative as human beings. And what I think the disease is in this time is that we consider the city as a project that we all work on. And I think the city is more, it is a coincidence. The city is more the mess we don't want. And it is not an office where you can plan everything and organize, you know, who is sitting where and for how long and how much is that. And I think the city as a project is really boring and stupid. So the feeling of this kind of development is one of it being spontaneous. So there is no planning, and that is also the problem at the moment, because the council doesn't know how not to plan, so they also want to plan us, and therefore we want to stay out of their arms, and they say we really love you, but we say no, thank you.
300 people are renting here, and most of them have something to do with culture, but sometimes not. And here you find all kind of initiatives which start here or has something to do with here. And it never ends, as you see, it always goes on. Hundreds of initiatives. And many things which happen in the city, like in Paradiso or in Milky Way or in all kind of venues and places in Amsterdam. Either the design of it is done here, or the program is done, or the DJ is coming from here, or the publicity is doing here. So from here there are a lot of ties in the whole cultural world of Amsterdam. Hoi.
Hey, ja, alles goed man.
Ja joh. We maken weer een uitzending. So one of our principles is do it yourself. Urban Resort, the organization who runs this, the organization I work for, has a background from the squatter movement. So the principles of the squatter movement, like do it yourself, is very important in this building too. So people want to have a music studio here, that's possible, but they have to build it self, they have to do it self. And of course we have to control a little bit about safety and fire things and so on. So we do, of course, but for the rest everyone makes it by themselves, and well, this is one of the results. In the backyard there are 3 other floors. And because it's so big I used to take the it's called elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah. I normally use stairs, but in this building you stop using chairs, stairs. The high rising of Amsterdam, that's where the international train from London and Paris and Berlin will end within a few years. And now they're organized around the South Station, the South Axis, all these kind of financial and other kind of headquarters. So that's a new part of Amsterdam. One of the main political items at the moment is Amsterdam Topstad. So the believing of Amsterdam being one of the main cities of Europe and one of the main global cities, and also in all kind of restructuring, which is happening now with the crisis and other positions, and Amsterdam dropping in amounts of tourists and in amounts of investments from headquarters and so on. So if you want to prepare for the future, you cannot just making the city open for foreign investment, because then you make the city open, nothing will happen at the moment. So you have to look to your own powers, you have to look to your own authenticity, to your own people.
We are living here in a made society anyway. This is the Netherlands. This is not some wild capitalism, Russia or USA. So I think if you want to make a change, then you, as a group like us, you have to operate in this field of tension. Means that you start to influence the policies that the state applies to urban space. I do not believe that deregulating urbanism will lead to anything good. I think that there needs to be other ways to regulate.
Well, I think it certainly has acquired this sort of Orwellian meaning, I think, creativity. I suspect what will happen when the hype is over is that it will be displaced by another elastic vehicular term that can somehow fill the space. At the moment, my sense is that social movements are rather too fragmented on a global sense, on a global scale. They don't really speak necessarily with a single voice. There's 1,000 alternatives to neoliberalism, not just one. And so I think the situation we face at the present time is that there is a sort of internal crisis of the neoliberal project, but not an alternative project waiting to fill the vacuum or contesting the space in the same kind of way. In many respects, what the Creative Cities strategy does is to work with the current conditions that we currently have. It actually provides a justification for social inequality, and it says that there's a creative class who are the winning 1/3 of society, and the losing 2/3 must learn to live like the winners. And so it does nothing other than to tell the working class and the service class that they should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And I think that is, in the end, a recipe for more of the same. It legitimizes inequality.
Housing within the city is expensive. It's are very complex places with a lot of people and a lot of interest, different interest. There used to be, from the national level, more subsidies to local government, to housing companies, in order to keep building and that sort of things. And that all is disappeared. They don't get subsidies anymore from national government, but they have to earn it themselves. There is a lot of money to earn if you can get a house out of the affordable part. So that means that the amount of social housings is going down. It's about 2 social houses which are sold in order to build 1 new. Well, apart from them, you also have private owners who had affordable houses, but because the market went up, they're all trying to get those houses out of the affordable part in order to sell it to the highest bidder. It's very difficult for the city government to stop that, but it's not the designing thing. Designing is what people in the city are doing, and you're not dependent on what the national government says. You can do your own thing still. So I think the power in the city in that respect is powerful enough to survive. That's what I believe. I really enjoy the future.
Hello, I am Wilma Kramer. I'm 49 years old and I live here for 4 years in Amsterdam, in het Spijterlijntje. And I live here with my boyfriend and a few dogs and a cat. When you want to move within Amsterdam, you came on a waiting list, and the waiting lists are very, very, very long for houses you can rent for a low price. And now we live here and they want us to leave this place because they want to demolish it and put expensive houses here. And now you can notice how difficult it is to get quite the same place with low money and the same we have now. I'm like a pit bull. I bite and don't let go. I don't let go. We have to fight, we have to. And not only me, but it sounds now, if it's only me, that's not true. Many neighbors from all around, not next door or at the back of at the front. We collected autographs we got about 2,600 of them. We don't want it to be like they want it to be. We have to be humble, no capitalist, no big money. We don't need it. We just need a bit of paint on our houses. They have to do their thing. People they look at it and they say, only 3, 4 houses, only 4 against powerful organization like IJmere. And they say, wow, we didn't know that you will come so far as far as we are now. And now maybe that's an example for others.
Mm.
They can win.
So if we're talking about what a real strategy for cities ought to be in the present time, clearly it needs to deal with issues like working poverty and inequality and ecological sustainability and the caring economy, and there are many a broad raft of questions which need to be addressed urgently on a if you like, a broader sort of rights to the city kind of framework. Would reclaim the city for its citizens.